not at your job. What you pray is, God, who would be helped today by me? I have a cousin. One story, Ricky's going to get us to the every knee shall bow. I have a cousin who has difficulty leaving the house. She has some mental illness. And it's really scary for her. In fact, about the only time she goes is when her daughter takes her to the grocery store. It's just something she has. I don't know. And they were trying to get a census filled out from Social Security. They had an evaluation. This guy showed up and she didn't even let him in the house. She says, I don't want to fill that out. I understand that that's optional. So she made him go. Well, pretty soon came the second one saying, we'd sure like to get your opinions on Social Security and how the system's working for you. She says, is this going to cut my check off? No. If I don't do it, will you take my check again? I said, no. Well, then I don't want to do it. So would you believe yesterday, she's sitting in her house and she sees these two cars across the street. Now, paranoia comes in as to why they're there. It's part of the reason she can't get out of the house. And she's wondering what in the heck has happened over there. Pretty soon, here comes a lady. And she said, I'm here to see if you'll spend some time with me. It'll only take 20 minutes, and I want to go through this questionnaire. Well, for some reason, my cousin Lorna invited her in the house. And the woman came in, and she had her sit down. Do you know they talked for 3 hours?
Wow.
I told my cousin she was prophetic. I told her that she has a spiritual life, and she goes, well, a lot of good that's going to do. I don't leave the house. And I said, never wonder that God won't bring you where you need to minister. Do not. God doesn't see the limitations you see. So they started talking on the questions, and the lady was there for 3 hours because her 18-year-old son had been in a car wreck and lost both legs. And he's now 19. For a year, he's been trying to get Medicaid. But because he has hands and they can do something in a wheelchair, they're not granting him Medicaid. And my cousin shared with her and said he had a brain injury, and she said, you need to put something forward that they can't fight against. He has a brain injury. It's documented. It means it screws up his thinking. They can't put that on a scale very easily. But don't forget to put that he lost 2 legs and he's young. He's going to have a lot of rehab. Do you know, she was in tears. She has a vet for a husband who has post-traumatic stress disorder, and she has one of her 4 sons with no legs. And she works for the government, but not in the Medicaid part. And my cousin told her everything that she did about how to approach that system. It takes a long time sometimes. Where's Justin? Huh, Justin? I don't know how many years we filled out for Justin. 2.5 years for it finally moved. And so they spent this time, and my cousin said, you know, when she left, I said, I'd sure like to know what happens with your son. And she says, I want you to know that. She says, here's my card, and give me a call. And when she went out the door, she turned around and she was crying as she looked at my cousin. Being ready to go at the time. And she says, you know, God, that's why I turned the other 2 down. God had a plan of who I was supposed to minister to and talk to and be there for. And I said, you might have found yourself a friend. Don't doubt that you found yourself a friend. Well, if I call, you know, they want to know all the questions. I would. You certainly could come up with a question that does with that survey, and that's what you tell them, and then talk to her. You know, she said she was crying when she left. And she said, I didn't know why I turned those people down, but I knew that the third one to come was the one that God, in fact, had invited her in, and she spent time ministering to her about loss and the system and how hard it can be. You know, right in her own house. It was divine. It was divine that she did that. She encouraged her. She lifted her up. She let her own interests go, which is kind of hard because focus on that a lot. She let all that go. She didn't go wash her hands. She didn't go pet her cat. She spent time ministering to a woman. I love talking to her about God and her talking to me about how God works in her life. You see, I know she's Christian because she does those things. She's my one connection. She does bring comfort. She worries about me when I go through surgery. She's waiting every Sunday for me to call. Sometimes I think, oh, and then I just call, and it's always better. You see, the main thing is the main thing. Wherever you go, it's not the banner of sexuality you need to carry first. It is the banner of love over me that walks in the room. Because I guarantee you, every barrier I've had to face, I've faced it that way. They sometimes have an issue, and we can discuss that. But when I walked into the Clergy Association, I was humble. I was pretty quiet. I spent time. I listened to the needs of others. I took them on in prayer, and little by little, things started to change. I guarantee you, wherever you go, if you think you can walk in and are going to get a privilege because you're LGBT, you're sorely going to be misunderstood. I'm telling you the truth. If you go to another place of worship and they're open and affirming, do not expect it to be like this church for you. You may work years before you're asked to do anything in service or become a member. You won't do what Tammy's doing right now, putting her arm around Doug. You won't be able to have that freedom in the beginning, and if you so choose one where they sit like this, you better be doing it too. You might even get a handshake instead of a hug. Yeah. You might feel like it's really hard to pour out your heart. You're going to find the people in the congregation that as they changed from who they were to open and affirming, that in that very congregation were people that hated that decision. And you will become the physical reality of that hate. See, now they're coming to ruin our church. Especially if more than 2 of you go. If we should show up where we're 15 one time, watch out. Because if we ever start becoming close to the majority, people start to fuss. Still today. In restaurants, it's that way. When we're 25, they're like, well, if the waitresses don't fuss, the tables do. Oh, here they come. Those dang queers. And we love them, and we've eaten there, and they get a big bill paid for, and Pastor Ricky does Pastor Ricky's darling stuff, and he breaks the ice, and they start to see Pastor Micah and Ricky in the congregation, and we move from place to place as kind of a pack, where we eat at lunch after worship, and they get used to us. That's what you have to do. You go in humble with their interests ahead of yours. It's very important. Should the wave of time change, should you all have a different Pentecost, should you all hear a different creator that changes the way that this is heading, you still have to have these behaviors here. Because we want to know when we come to community, it's not just a song.
That's right.
That God sees deeper into our hearts and wants to pull from us that very essence of giftedness that's been given each of you. And as a result of that tuning and bringing forth our very selves to God, it's not so hard to hear and understand the last part of this reading.
Well, the Apostle Paul basically is saying, it was what we said before, it's not about me, it's about Christ. And do we want Christ to be reflected in our lives, things? The question is, what do you think of Jesus this morning? What do you think of Jesus? What do you think of Christ? God, through Christ we hear God's voice. Through Christ we see God's compassion. And through Christ we draw near and personally experience God's presence. And what I've found is that when your belief in Jesus moves from your head to your heart, your life will never be the same. It's got to move from your head to your heart. What do you think of Jesus? I was reading, I heard it about a year ago, March 31st, 2014. A little 9-year-old boy, Willie Myrick, was kidnapped in Atlanta out of his front yard. He was playing with his dog. And a stranger came kidnapped him out of his yard, started driving him around in his car. For 3 hours, this little 9-year-old boy decided he was going to sing. And he's saying, every praise is to our God. Jesus, my Savior. Jesus, my friend. Jesus, my healer. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. He sang this for 3 hours. The kidnapper was cussing at him, telling him, shut up, I'm going to kill you. And he just sang louder. Finally, the kidnapper had enough, threw him out of the car. The boy ran to a house and said, could you call my parents? I was kidnapped. And the story made national news. And I thought, a little 9-year-old boy wasn't afraid to say, it's all about Jesus. When they interviewed him, he said, oh, he goes, I was scared. But I knew Jesus was in control. And no matter what happened to me, my fate was in God's hands. Saints, as we go forth from this place, that's how it is with us. People don't have, people, like Pastor said earlier, when people want to, go into your bedroom, take them into your sanctuary. And the sanctuary is the sanctuary of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
That's what we do, saints. And when we do, then we bring glory to God. Because you see, every knee will bow. Every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord to the glory of God. I believe that with all of my heart, with all of my soul, with all of my being, everything within me. That's what I believe. And that's my heartfelt desire for each and every one of you. If we're going to call ourselves Christians, let's be Christians. Let's strive and desire to be as much Christ-like as we can in our lives each and every day. Amen?
Amen. So when somebody tries to come to you about your sexuality, well, what does transgender mean? Well, how does that going to work out? I'd rather have a foundation of faith built there first. So when they come to my bedroom, which they think they have an open door to do, I want to take them to sanctuary, to safeness and compassion and humanity, and the living the life and the journey of a Christian walk. I'm more than willing to share anything about that.
Amen.
And when they're lifted from the humanness to the holiness, they will know we are Christians by our love.
Amen.